Welcome to Candid Conversations with Carolyn Vaughn. I am excited about this particular conversation because I am on a personal health and wellness journey. And the reason that I'm so just adamant about wellness in this, as I am maturing in age, I had my last visit with my physician. Then I was reminded about my genetics, and which meant that my cholesterol may become an issue, hypertension, because those are two of the things that are in my genetics. And so the first thing, of course, that I am told about the different things that I can take to help with that. But my journey is that I don't want to be on any medications. I want to see what I can do naturally by maybe changing up some of the foods that I eat. And I was already very conscientious about our meals and about meal planning. But then I learned some different things as I have researched and found out that there are some things specific to lowering cholesterol or helping out with hypertension. So today, I am so excited to help me out and hopefully some of you out with this area of health and wellness. So I want to welcome today Chiomas Atanmo.
Yes.
Chiomas, you can say it for me. But and she is a nutritional and wellness coach. And I'm so excited. And not only that, but she is the community program leader for Sporting KC. And so again, help me welcome Chiomas
Atanmo.
Atanmo. Okay,
Perfect.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So welcome to Candid Conversation.
Thank you.
And as you heard me say, I'm on a personal journey. And I'm very adamant about staying off of medications. I don't want to go that route. And so I am researching, and what I thought was okay, then I'm having to take some things out and add some different things. So I am definitely interested in your journey and what you have found out. And you're just in your early 30s.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even thinking about
Yeah.
wellness in my early 30s. But I am so grateful to have you here, because I think that if young adults would kind of pay more attention in their early ages to nutrition and to exercising and to wellness, then that will grow with them as they mature in age as well. Would you say?
Yes, absolutely. So kind of a backstory with me was I was a four-sport athlete growing up. So I was playing volleyball, soccer, track, played a little bit of basketball, and I never really was concerned with what I ate. My parents are immigrants from Nigeria, and I was the first born in the States, so I'm first generation Nigerian American. And my mom always cooked. She always cooked every Sunday after church. We always had these large meals.
Yes, those family meals.
Yes, and she always made sure to, we always had our carbs, our protein, and our vegetables.
And dessert,
and
right?
a protein. We weren't big on desserts.
Oh,
we weren't big on desserts. And I think growing up, because that wasn't something that we always had in our home, it's like something that I always craved a lot of. But my father was diagnosed with diabetes when he moved here, and a lot of my family members that were emigrating from Nigeria to the States started getting diabetes, high blood pressure, and hypertension, all these things that we weren't getting back home. So I started to look at our food and started to look at, okay, are we exercising enough? Like, what's the difference there? So when I got to college, I injured myself. I couldn't play soccer anymore. So now I'm not exercising as much, and I was still eating as if I was a four-sport athlete. So I gained all this weight, and it was weird because I'm just like, I'm still exercising, but why am I gaining all this weight? And so I tried to actually walk onto the soccer team. They said that I wasn't fit enough, and so
they did.
Yeah, and I wasn't, but I got really depressed because now my identity as a soccer player was taken away from me. And so I started to look at food differently, going back to why is my family now getting all these diseases that they never had before? And how can I use that research that I'm now using on my family, on myself, and maybe can I adopt some like healthier habits? So looked at food differently, started to just look at food as fuel, but also as I knew that food growing up was also a source of joy and community, and that food shouldn't be super restrictive. But in school, when I got my degree in nutritional sciences, we were taught like the restrictive way of nutrition, that your food had to look a certain way, your food had to have all these colors, and it was a very just a very linear way of looking at food. So what I started to do now, like now that I'm 31, but I started to look at food as a way to, how can I marry some other things that I've learned with the mental health side and the emotional side of eating, and not use food as this barrier to like restrict and put me in this prison. I feel like a lot of us have always been on these diets that we've been on a diet our whole life.
I can tell you about some diets.
Yeah.
When I was your age, yes, I can tell you about some diets. I think we tried about every diet, 20s, early 30s. I think we tried about every diet.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the cabbage diet?
No.
See,
Cabbage diet.
yeah, that was a diet. Yeah, that I think we did just about every diet.
Yeah.
So, but like you were saying, it only helped for that time that you're doing it, and then once you go back to regular eating, of course,
You gain all the weight
back. Yeah.
And that was the part that I was like, okay, I got really restrictive with my eating and dropped like 30 pounds. And I remember coming home for the holidays and my family was like, Chioma, you're so skinny. You think you're cute. And and I was here like, I'm good. I look fine. But it was so hard for me to keep that like image for my body because I was so restrictive. Like I wasn't eating any sweets. I wasn't eating any rice, all the foods that I was raised on, like Nigerian foods, I was now depriving myself of that. I even didn't come home for the holidays because I was like so afraid that I was gonna like gain all the weight back that I just lost, and I was like feeling so confident now.
So it was bothering your psyche.
It was, and that's where I was just like, nobody's talking about this. But I'm like, but you know what? I'm doing personal training, and as a personal trainer, your body is like you're a walking billboard. So
yes, absolutely.
It was so hard for me to keep that physique. And then I remember like, okay, let me loosen up some of the restrictions because I don't want to avoid my family. I don't want to avoid gatherings because I'm afraid I'm going to gain this weight back. And so I remember gaining about 10 pounds, but it was 10 pounds of like healthy weight. And it was weight that I felt like I didn't have to work hard to like keep my body at that weight. And I felt like what the difference was I was including foods that I knew were nourishing for my body, but I wasn't depriving myself of foods that I knew that I loved and foods that I grew up on. So rice that I didn't eat for like 4 years, I introduced rice back into my diet, and I'm like, it's not that bad, but I can add more vegetables to my plate to make it a lot more nourishing, and that way it balances out the things that I love with things that I know that my body needs. And when I started to take inventory of how my body felt once I started to consume these foods, then it was like, okay, this is okay for my body versus, okay, let me keep this restrictive size. I have muscles and I have abs and I look good, but mentally it was so draining, and I was like low on energy too.
So do you think in today's world that we do as a people, and especially as women of color, when you think about body shaming, and you know, you see what media is saying you should look like, and so especially for our young girls, then I think it messes with their psyche as well, in trying to look a certain way. But that's not real.
It's not, and that's the thing with social media too. I talk about that it's so important to be mindful of the social media feed that you have and what you're pouring into yourself, because those are subconscious images that you're now like normalizing. So when it comes to normalizing real bodies, it's
real bodies.
Yes, it's like,
yes.
people need to be authentic and true with like what their body is, what their actual weight is. Like I weigh 168 pounds now, but people carry their weight differently. I remember looking at a magazine and thinking like, okay, if this athlete who I know she's taller than me and thicker than me, she weighs 140, but this person over here weighs 120, but this person over here, but my mom weighs this and my sister weighs. It's like you start to compare yourself to like all these bodies that and you don't know if people are honestly telling you the truth about their weight. So it's so important to be comfortable in your skin. Know that a lot of the times you're seeing these filtered images anyways, and if you need to do surgery to do it, I'm not against it, but I think it's just important for us to be authentic and true with what we're doing to our bodies, so our young girls aren't thinking that this is normal. My waist has to be this tiny. My, I have to have these specific measurements to be desired. So I also talk about how it's important to just like preach self-love and love yourself, because then you're not going to look for somebody to love you in a way that you're not loving yourself in. So
I think it also is important when you mention about the weight, because when you go for your your annual checkup and stuff, they have you weigh.
Yeah.
And then if you're I don't care how you look, but if you're over a certain what they consider to be healthy, then you're labeled as overweight.
I know, yeah.
No matter no matter how healthy, then you're the overweight. And so I'm thinking about, especially when I was around your age, and appearance was so important, and that's why we did all those diets, because we had trying to look a certain way. But as we mature and learn about being more healthy and our self-image, now there's a certain weight that I was at maybe when I was in college, and my college weight was like 145, 155. I'll never be back there.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever get back to that weight. So I'm not trying to do that. So as I am maturing in age, I'm more concerned with quality of life. I'm more concerned with being resilient in my energy and being able to move and all of that, just overall health. That's my concern. I'm not as concerned as I was in decades past about how much I weigh.
Yeah, because the needs your body had when you were in your 20s and 30s are completely different.
Metabolism was different.
Yeah, metabolism's different. A lot of things are different. And so we hold on to these images of like we're looking at our old photos, and then Facebook doesn't help, but it reminds you of how you look live in your prime, and you're just like, excuse me, Facebook. Yeah. But it's that's why it's so important for us to be realistic with what our body needs. So I teach my clients on how to like set performance-based goals, that it's not necessarily like, okay, how much do you weigh on the scale? Okay, what's your dress size? It's like, okay, if you want to be stronger, okay, if you're only able to do 4 push-ups, let's see if we can get you to 10 push-ups. If you are winded when you're walking up a flight of stairs, let's see if we can make sure that you're not as winded, and doing things that you need to do on a regular basis. So it's just trying to find those like mobility movements that aren't necessarily so focused on the number, because like you said, it's the BMI will tell a lot of mostly people of color that we're overweight. I'm considered overweight according to the BMI, but it's getting the blood work, understanding what your bone density is, having those performance-based goals where you're able to walk for long periods of time or maybe run for long periods of time, and those things where it's not, the BMI is also a very outdated way to measure someone's health. I know that there's still value in it, but it can't be the only way that we're measuring health, especially for people of color, because
we're going to be in trouble if that's the case.
Yes. Very
so
much.
What you mentioned a lot about our relationship with food, and as I mentioned, in this stage of my life, I've had to rethink some things that I thought was okay. Yeah. But because I'm specific about blood pressure and cholesterol, I'm specific about those things. And for instance, in mostly anything that you read, coconut oil is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to lower your cholesterol, then
too much coconut oil is not that because of the
it's
saturated
not.
fat.
So you need to cut it out. And every January most people do, most Christians, they try the Daniel's fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of the recipes call for coconut oil. So I was, we were doing that because we do that every January. I would use coconut oil and all that. And then when I found out that, that coconut oil for me. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying I've had to read some things for me. It's not for everybody.
Right.
But I'm on a goal. I'm on a journey to not be on statins and all the other stuff. So this is my journey.
Yeah, and I commend you for wanting to take that holistic, natural way to see how you can heal your body because we forget sometimes that our bodies didn't get this way overnight. Our bodies didn't, accumulate all these things, and we're trying to fix them with all these like quick hacks where it's like 30-day this, 21-day this, and people think, the Daniel fast is gonna fix their all of last year's eating habits, and that's not the case. So it's important to recognize like what's unique for you, and sometimes I talk about how, like, even with like canned foods and frozen fruits and vegetables, people think that it's unhealthy if it's not fresh. There are some foods that you can have canned or frozen that are still just as beneficial, and it depends on like what are you willing to do, how much time do you have to prepare your meals, what's realistic for your schedule, do you need to prepare meals ahead of time, like all those things, versus thinking that you have to have this very rigid, cut cold turkey, eat only these foods for a short period of time and think that it's going to solve all your problems when it's not.
So one advantage that we have in our household is just the two of us. Mm-hmm. So I don't have my family that I have to, like I did before, to prepare meals for. Yeah. And so whatever I prepare, then my husband is on board too. So that helps that we're both on the same page. Yeah. And so we will eat the same things. I don't have to fix one thing for him and fix another thing for myself. And what has helped me to kind of stay within my planning is that I do meal plans, and we talk about it. Okay, this is what we need to make sure I get what I need on of this amount of this when I know I'm looking at solubles and adding more grains and all of that. So I kind of break it up 5 days a week, especially on Sundays though. Yeah, that's the Lord's day. Yeah. So we go out and eat what we want on Sunday.
Yeah. And it's important to still like include foods that you love. Like I always talk about, like food also has a place of joy and community and safety and security. And if you think that food only has to be this like source of, okay, I'm trying to lose weight so I can only eat this, you're going to have those moments where you're at like a family gathering or you're on vacation and you just go crazy, and then you feel like I've been depriving myself for a month of the foods that I love. And so it's always important to still include those foods that bring you that joy and that community.
So what would you say, being the expert in nutrition, meal planning versus dieting?
Yeah, so in diet culture, I think terms have been like hijacked to have like their own meanings. I do think that with meal planning, the significance of that is being intentional with how you want your week to go. So I think it's just important, just regardless, to like plan for what you want your week to be versus reacting and being this zombie and just kind of going to whatever is convenient, because it's like there's fast food restaurants in every corner.
Yes, there are.
There's gas stations. It's easy to get, the food that is maybe not as nourishing for your body. So meal planning at least allows you to plan ahead. And I always say that like food is communication to your body. So every day that you feed yourself, you're giving yourself a chance to tell your body how you want it to feel and how you want it to perform. So meal planning is great, but with dieting, your dieting is restriction basically. So with dieting, you're not You're in this restrictive mindset. You're feeling like, okay, I can't have, you're almost focused on what you can't have.
Right.
And
exactly.
that just messes with your
you
don't have time for that. Like, we're going through so much that we need all the brain power we need to just help us get us through our day. And if you're so focused on what you can't eat, you're going to have those moments where you want to binge.
So, and I think it's the same thing as some of the things that I talk about with clients as far as in life coaching, that if you can trick your brain, because if you're telling your brain you can't have this, you can't have that, but if you can just trick your brain into thinking that, oh, I can have this instead, I can have this. You're presenting something that you can have instead of focusing on what you cannot have.
Exactly.
And it helps in the long run to be sustainable in what your goal is.
Right. It's like we have to, like, just like how you can train your taste buds to like certain foods, it's like you can also train your brain to believe that, hey, what I'm feeding you is good. What I'm trying to teach you some new habits, like all of this is good. So.
Okay, and this is another thing that I've learned that I used to do, when I'm trying to keep a certain weight, skipping meals.
Yeah.
As opposed to small meals during the day. You skip because, you're trying to keep a certain, weight down. So you might skip breakfast, or you might eat breakfast and you don't eat nothing else until the evening time. But skipping meals as opposed to eating maybe 5 small meals a day.
Yeah, so it goes back to what is like realistic for your schedule. So if you're a person who, maybe you're in the office and you're just like meeting after meeting after meeting, or you're just on the go, maybe it's easier for you to have, breakfast, lunch, and then maybe like a small dinner. If you're someone who can eat at your desk, or you're eating at your car, or you're eating on the go or something, then the 5 or 6 meals can serve you a little bit better, but it just depends on like what your schedule is. So going back to meal planning, it's like, when are you going to have the time to like sit down and eat your food, be present with your food, and not feel like you're in this rush? So I don't like to say, hey, this is the best option for you. It just really honestly depends on the person. And then because intermittent fasting is also a term that has been coined as something
very, very popular.
It is.
So
a lot of people can use skipping meals as intermittent fasting. So there's some rules and regulations with that, but it just depends on what your schedule's like. When do you feel like you can get the most out of your food and not feel like you're in this rush? Because when you scarf your food down, you just get bloated and tired, and you're just like, did I even just eat? Now I'm hungry again.
Right. So that's true too, and I'm glad we're having this conversation between, mature aging woman, and young adult, because it's the differences. For me, I will put something, in my purse that I know is nutritional, so that if I get hungry, because sometimes if you get really hungry, you'll grab something that you should not have. So trying to keep on task, then I'll buy nutritional snacks that I can snack on during the day or something until it's time for that next meal. So one of the things that is so controversial to me right now, and maybe you can help me out. Whole grain. Versus whole wheat. Are they one and the same? Is it different? I've read somewhere as far as, and remember, everything that I'm doing is because of those 2 specific areas of health. So I'm reading that don't buy whole wheat. If I'm gonna do bread, buy whole grain.
So that's the thing. So this is the hard part with nutrition, because I get people's frustrations. Like, I was there where you read one thing and then you read a couple weeks later that it's bad for you. First they said beef was great, then they said it's a carcinogen, and it was like it would give you cancer. So it's always important to read the ingredients first on the back of whatever you're buying. The difference with whole wheat is that it's still processed in a way that you're not getting the whole grain. And with whole wheat, it's almost like a dyed form of white bread. So it's still processed.
Okay.
The thing with whole grain is you're getting the full grain. So, but the thing is that some people can't process the full grain. So that it goes back to how does your body respond to these different types of foods. So I know for some of my clients, they can't have gluten. Some of my clients can have gluten, but it has to be a specific type of gluten. So it's taking inventory. I know, and that's the thing that, because I feel like we're constantly just like flying by in our days and not even really taking inventory of how our body feels after certain meals, we just think that being bloated is normal, having knee pain is normal, having back pain, and all these things are normal when it's not. So it just goes back to how does your body feel after you eat certain foods? If I had to say there was one better over the other, it just depends on how your body responds to that.
Wow. So it is just best then to consider your body, and then when you go for your annuals, really look at your blood work.
Yes.
Look at those numbers for yourself.
Yes.
And then most of the times, unless you go to a particular type of doctor, but your regular doctors, you take your blood work when you go. And then you have to go online to look at, but you don't have anyone that's sitting there explaining to you line by line. But if you go to a holistic physician, who most of them do not take insurances, so that's private pay, but they will have you take your labs in advance, and so when you sit down with them, they'll go over with you line for line, and I think that's a little bit more helpful. But most people can't do the private.
Yeah.
They have to go along with what their insurance says. But I think the main thing that we want to stress in this conversation is that know your body. And do what you know is good for you, which may not be good for someone else, but it's good for you. Know your body.
Exactly.
And consider what else.
Exactly. Yeah. Know your body. Don't be afraid to, I think with the emotional and mental
eating.
Stress.
Like
it's going back to okay, what did I deprive myself of growing up? Is that showing up right now as an adult? So journaling and just taking inventory of how your body feels after certain foods are really important. And I think that food is the one thing besides, drinking water every day that you have to eat every day that you can influence how your body feels. So first it's recognizing how does your body feel right now and how do you want it to feel, and how you can eat foods to help deepen that connection with your body.
Okay, so I am, like I said, on this journey, and I'm doing my meal planning. So to make sure that, I might need a little bit of help to make sure that I am on the right track when it comes to my health. So what could I come to your website or come to you for? What do you offer people like me?
Yeah, so my website is called Mindful Appetite.
Mindfulappetite.com.
Yeah, mindfulappetite.com. I'm a nutritionist and wellness coach, so I teach people how to have healthy relationships with food and do that through mindful eating and mindful movement to deepen that connection with their bodies again. So you can reach out to me and fill out a form to set up a free call. What we do is we just kind of go through what are your current eating habits, what are your goals, and I talk about a little bit how my program works. It's a 12-week program, and it's all one-on-one coaching, and I have spots open right now until October 30th, but I do run this throughout the year. So, and I think accountability is the biggest part that a lot of people need, is just someone to kind of guide them through this process and ask them the right questions. And if you have an off week, which you will have, it's not feeling like it's going to derail you and make you feel like you're going to go back into, okay, I suck, I need to start all over. It's like, no, everybody has an off week. So
well, thank you. Thank you so much. You. And I will be in contact with you.
Yes.
Just so I can fine tune my meal planning, making sure that I'm doing what I need to do on this journey, because the next labs that I have, I want to make sure that numbers are So thank you all for watching today. Don't forget, stop, like, and share.